Here we are. Today I am going to do just a quick sprint on, I don't even know, probably just trying to figure out what to do with my agency's website. It has not been updated for quite some time. I always like to bring up this little adage of cobbler's kids with no shoes. Basically, I am the cobbler. My children has no shoes. Let's take a look at what we're working with here. I'm super zoomed in just because we are streaming. Zoom out a little bit. So we have some video assets. Not great. Off to a good start. The content, the information architecture, everything is good. It's been working for us. Portfolios are all out of date, obviously. Lots of videos, so this website I would imagine is pretty slow. Some really subtle interactions, if you can even call them that these days. It's pretty simple. I think the highest impact page is probably going to be our portfolio. We've got just like a random grid going on here. The original design or the original art direction was created by a rock star, Xenia. If you don't know her, she is one of the awards judges. She has a really dope studio. She has since blown up since she worked with us. We were definitely too busy and too, I don't know. We were just like not capable enough to properly implement kind of like her vision back then. We didn't have the assets, the dev skills and whatnot, but now we do. And so now it's time. And mind you, this was like 2015, maybe 2014, long time ago. So what I'm going to do is first pop open Figma. Let's pop open Figma. And I want to open up my FigJam. The goal for me, I think, is going to be all about trying to come up with like a concept and then presenting it to my partners. Maybe I'll bring on a partner here today. And then trying to figure out kind of an art direction. Now, I like to just, instead of doing little improvements, just burn everything to the ground. And the next thing you know, it's a year-long project. So that's not productive. So I need to come up with a strategy for this redesign that is more productive and something that I can kind of scale over time and make improvements over time. And how you do that is very tricky. Luckily, it's kind of what I do for a living, so hopefully I can sort of figure this out. We are in Figma. Let's try and look for the website. I already have a FigJam or like a seed of an idea for our new art direction. I am not the art director. Max, my partner, is the art director. But he's busy and I need to stream something. So we're going to go ahead and do that. All right, let's take a look at just like what we have and what I've been doing. Where is my FigJam? So I'm trying to look for freaking this like sprint I did a while back. And now it's gone. That's a month ago, prototype. I'm gonna have to look at all my projects, which is a lot, and this is gonna take some time. Oh, I put it in here. There's a new game coming out called Marathon, I think. And it has probably my most favorite new style. It's not even a new thing, but it is just, I don't know. There's something about it. It's like candy to my eyes. It's not usually what I'm gravitating towards as far as like aesthetics for, design. But there was something about it that was really refreshing. I think it's like a culmination of all the trends that we've been seeing the past like couple years, and now it's kind of here. So they call it graphic realism. This is the game, and I don't know, man. There's just like something about it that was kind of interesting, and would be really, really cool to see how something like this would translate to a website. There's another agency that sort of has this. I mean, it's kind of like a refined brutalist website. Large text, really saturated colors. Everything else is, it's basically like the highlight colors just gets turned up a notch, and then you're also not afraid to use your highlight colors as straight up backgrounds to things. But I think just overall, it's a really interesting style. It's a complete rebrand, and obviously, I'm not just gonna push our current identity into this, but finding, where that middle ground is and what the step by step approach, over the next couple months will be, to get to something interesting. I found this person, Ali Zafar, on Dribble, who's got a really interesting portfolio that sort of starts to tease out, that whole kind of style. Let me find his website here. Let's take a look. So when you look at this plus like what we were just looking at, it's definitely completely different, but it's got some of the ideas. And what I kind of want to do is mix this graphic realism that Bungie has essentially just made up as a term, and also kind of the old, this is all like teenage engineering, industrial design, but yeah, kind of like the what's it called? The Brawn, all the stuff that Johnny Ives basically ripped off for Apple, but then with the pop of color. So here you have kind of these oranges and things like that. And essentially just like mixing this style, kind of this energy, with this type of UI. And so Ali's portfolio that I found, and I might actually hit this guy up because it's pretty cool, sort of does that in some ways. So, it's very, that's basically sort of it. You got thin lines, you have the pop of color, everything's monochromatic, pretty flat in general. But there's something about it where you can turn it up a notch and then you get into neuromorphic type of design, sort of like this. That's kind of very, very interesting to me. And I can already see how I would layer on that graphic realism onto something like this, and how much you can communicate with this type of style. The text really jumps out at you. Now, mind you, the difference here is these are all essentially product design, which is a completely different realm of design altogether than a website, right? That's for marketing purposes. But we can definitely implement some of those ideas into, a portfolio. I've done stuff like this before, like back in art school, pretty much, where I was using a lot of thin lines, and it felt very data viz, sci-fi, Minority Report, if you've ever seen that. But I also love just the contrast that you get. It's in this weird space where it's high contrast, but also there's a lot of grays, there's a lot of like middle ground. Like this background is not full black, right? You don't have that such a high contrast there. So you have like this hierarchy of colors, and then where you have basically your highlight color way out there, and then everything else is kind of in small steps, as your, I don't know, as your surface or your backgrounds are in small steps. So you have this like kind of gray, I don't know what that would be, like a 600, maybe maybe 800, 700, and then you have like your gray 900, or like super dark gray, almost black. And then on the other side of the or not spectrum, but on the other side of like the scale, you have, or the value, you have just white. With, I guess it's the same. There's like a white, and then you have like a gray, I don't know, 100 as your border, gray 200. I'm speaking in design system terms here, because I'm terrible at remembering color names. I just realized. I only know like primaries and maybe periwinkle and cyan. That's about it. I don't know what like hunter green versus olive green, like, yeah, I don't know. I'll do better looking at HSL and hex codes. These are also really interesting. So here with this one, he's kind of gone more like less with that like contrast, and it's a lot lower contrast, where you get this kind of retro vibe, but because the UI is so futuristic looking, like lots of HUD type of design, it brings it into the modern times to some extent. You also just like can't not look at how smooth and how just organic is a weird way to describe something that's feeling like a clock and mechanic, but like, yeah, the bounces, yeah, there's so much happening in the easing that's just really awesome. So I really love this person's design. I may contact this person actually at some point today. So yeah, for some reason I woke up and I was like, I want to look at this type of stuff today. Because, like, yeah, when you look at stuff like this, it almost feels like the teenage engineering type of style. So how do you then convert something like this, implement or, apply some stuff like this onto a marketing website? That's a good question. That's what we're going to try and figure out today. I got a couple of, more inspiration here on how things might pan out. You can almost visualize this to be your nav, your header, or, this could be like a CTA or something, or a grid, because it is a grid right now. Literally just like how this is, where you have an article, then you have maybe a smaller article with just some like meta tags. This could be a call to action, or this is where your section title is. And then, maybe your contact information is over here. That's sort of how I'm thinking about it. I think the tricky part with it is maybe most of this style is successful because of the content. Like, because it's not a website, right? Like, it might not translate to a website, so we'll see. And then I started looking at, going a little bit more into the retro just to explore it, see what's up. It felt too retro. I didn't want to go there. Interesting ideas here, but again, I mean, it's essentially the same. It's just the style, the color, everything was getting a little too retro. But this graphic, whoa. Okay, I got a new mouse and now I don't. Jesus, bro, serious? I got a new mouse and so now it's just kind of like a disaster trying to use this thing. Can't even. All my bindings are gone. There you go. So graphic realism. First of all, from what I understand, Marathon is an older game. and there has been games that had the same art direction as Marathon, which was Wipeout, which is like this speedboat racing game. Just to get in the mood, let's actually go and check out. Let's check this out. I don't know if my desktop audio's on. So pumped. I don't even have an Xbox, but maybe this is gonna be on PC, so maybe I'll play it. But yeah, that's the vibe. It's kind of dope. How do I make that into the art direction for my website? There's some shots here where I get really inspired by. So there's a couple of ingredients that they have to create this whole aesthetic. One that really stands out to me, aside from the color, because that's like kind of it, are just these like shapes, these geometric shapes that's repeating, that's just spread out in an array like that. You like Nike has this vibe, like the fashion like world, especially streetwear, or activewear more specifically, has this. Off-White, have been doing stuff like this for a while, and maybe it's even gotten out of trend at this point. But Nike definitely comes to mind, that has a lot of these things. I think I even found like no, these are all from. I think these are all from the game, but yeah. So some of these shapes are pretty dope because that kind of means that one, I don't have to get an illustrator. I don't have to learn how to draw. I could just make some shapes, and then that's that. There's these kind of the crosshairs. It's really awesome, and I just love the use, like the texture that you get. That I don't know how we can replicate on a website. I suppose you get this similar texture when you start thinking about like neumorphic design, and maybe the texture comes from shadows, and that's kind of what gives it this like tactile feel. Because with like neumorphism, it's all about shadows. It's all about, yeah, just like a whole bunch of shadows. And if we take a look at Saphir's portfolio, or any Dribbble portfolio really, that has neumorphic design, it's kind of all it's just all about shadows. It's really what makes it. Like here, I'm getting that same, I don't know if it's matte, but like, that same kind of texture as this Cyborg's vibe. I guess this Cyborg's like a little bit more shiny, more porcelain looking. But, the gun, the scope, like that texture is really interesting. And I think it is coming from just like playing with the values, like how gray something is, as well as like shadow and lighting. Which, luckily Figma does have, and CSS is pretty good with shadows these days. So I think, that could be really dope. Can't wait for I hope this game actually comes out. Anyways, okay, so going back on the website, yeah, I started actually, I started looking at more like cyborg design just to see how else we can implement color within a layout, within some sort of silhouette. I was really digging this color scheme. This one even has a Nike. That one's interesting. It just lets you play in so many like different ranges. You're not just stuck with, how teenage engineering is, where it's just like kind of in this monochromatic single pop of color vibe. Because to me, like this with a little bit of that, some of that, a whole bunch of this stuff, it kind of all goes together, right? It's just basically sci-fi, I guess. So, yeah. I don't know what these blocks are. Okay, enough of that. Next up, we can now go back into our Webflow and look at this depressing site. I like to rip on it, but it's a good site, especially when we first launched it. So if we're going to keep the information architecture the same, totally fine. There are some improvements as far as like conversion is concerned, the utility of the actual website, which that might be a different sprint altogether. So I'll need a solution for like gridding things out, and also how to, present work. Now, when a person is going on a portfolio, to be honest, it's the interaction design is what kind of gets them to, that amps up the retention. Or not even that. It's like your click-through rate goes up with just like nice, buttery, motion or interaction design. But then it's really the portfolio is what they're looking for. They're trying to go here to click on your work and see what's up and whether or not they want to hire you. So a part of me thinks on the homepage, I definitely want the work to still stand out and not get overwhelmed by whatever the hell I come up with, with this art direction. And so I don't know if the work stays like this, very minimal, but then, maybe we have thin lines, the border, kind of weaving in that style. Or we grid out our portfolio and just kind of have, something. So you're seeing many types of work in one kind of, like every time you scroll, you see like a bunch more work. I think because like our brand, we're really a studio, we are technically an agency, but if you really think about it with our size, the type of work we do, we're a studio. So it's not necessarily about volume. It's about like the quality of work, I think, and how relevant that work is to our, ideal customer persona, basically. So that's really kind of the most important part. All right. So let's look at let's look at like how other studios present their work, because I think there's a part of me thinks that like just keep it large and in charge, basically, like how we have it now. But then a part of me feels like I should probably explore grids and things like that. All right, we are now in Mobbin. Mobbin, if you don't know, it's not really used widely in the web design space, but it is absolutely crucial and basically the main resource in product design. It's absolutely incredible. Anyways, they do have a marketing filter, so you can see a whole bunch of marketing pages. Let's see if they have a portfolio. It's gonna give me probably a bunch of like portfolio like product pages, like Behance or something, like the Behance product. Yeah, basically. Not agency. That's okay. We'll use Mobbin when we get into like UI design for like headers and things like that. Let me get rid of this stuff that I was working on last night. Back to awards. Let's look at collections. A huge part of me wants to, I'm already thinking about development. I really want to use Payload for this one and get out of Webflow. That would be really sick. We do a lot of Webflow projects though, so maybe like our made in Webflow page, or like why we use Webflow is Webflow, but everything else is Payload. Just because I'm so deep in React 3 Fiber and just making things outside of Webflow that I'm gonna go crazy if I'm stuck in Webflow. So this is kind of like, well, this is like it almost feels like he's selling us posters or whatever, or these are just a bunch of articles. But for him, he's an independent freelancer. For him, this is exactly what I want to see if I'm hiring a designer. I just want to see your fucking work. And then click into it, see what you actually did. Yeah, this is a great portfolio. The only downside here is I don't know how you think, right? Like, how did you solve problems here? Because a lot of people can do this if they have access to these types of assets, you know? The assets are really what's making this. So at least we know, you know, if this person is good. Well, I guess it does say like the services he has here. Seems like he's a developer. Yeah, he's a full stack developer. That's why. This is a really, really awesome portfolio. But my clients are not going to be, you know, attracted to that or care too much about that. They're going to want something more similar to an agency website, with lots of like case studies and things like that, more deep dives. So as much as I love looking at the freelance portfolios, it's actually not very appropriate for what we want. So we want like agency specific. I don't know when the last time these things have been. I don't know how often these things are updated. The thing with when you're browsing through awards, most of these agencies, their ideal customer persona are people that are looking for heavy interactions, lots of creative development. So we got to take things with a grain of salt. I will put a lot of weight on whether or not they won developer award because yeah, that's impressive. See, like This is kind of what I'm saying. It's just like a bunch of reels. Is this a reel? Yeah. That's a great video player. Just hit play. Hell yeah. That's very cool. Yeah, I think it has to be just huge images. The only like critique I would have on how we have things set up right now is that it's really boring. It doesn't feel dynamic, and you're almost like it's almost claustrophobic. It's too tight, not enough white space. The classic problems. Um, so this is a great solution for it, and because it's got the thin lines, it's got all the trendy stuff. Um, it's just like an alternating grid. I think we could come up with like a different type of grid, but yeah, I'm not even clicking into. I love this agency. I think they're based out of LA. They just have the dopest experiments, and I love when agencies just like show their experiments. It seems like everyone's got a reel. I think we have a reel somewhere. I'm gonna have to find that. I gotta keep track of the time. I can't just do this all day. Um, Interesting approach here. Not enough visual weight, but I guess so. Maybe there's an argument to be made here of if you have a reel, then you don't have to have massive images all the time because you've sort of proven that like you have good stuff, and now you can just focus on case studies and things. This is a really dope. That was an insane transition. This is a single page app. Oh my god. What's great is because of Barba.js, like this is possible in Webflow, and I've done stuff like this in Webflow, where it's like you're changing URLs, but it's got this single page app experience where there's no page load, or like a flash. There's a page load. I said I wouldn't click in, but I had to just see that transition. Let's look at their main work page. Yeah, I mean, oh, they did the old. This is so trendy that it's like part of Reloom's kit now, I think. Um, the mouse event is just so smooth. The damping on it is really cool. So what's forming in my mind right now is a grid of images, not as big, but still like prominent. I mean, Lucian is just the owner of this agency has a talk that I watch maybe every other month. He did a talk on awards where he like kind of goes through some projects and things and how he got started and stuff like that. What an incredible agency! First of all, they just make the coolest stuff. This whole thing is just like a creative developer's wet dream, basically. It's like every shader, every interaction is just like here, you know, CSS transitions. You got the shader back there, you know, you got views. This part is nuts. If you haven't seen this website, as you scroll, you're now in this like crazy 3JS situation, or React 3 Fiber, I suppose, all the same. You got an astronaut, which is like, yo, that's my jam. I have an astronaut tattoo. Just love that stuff. Yeah, they just went nuts. I love it. Their About Us is probably the most epic About Us ever. I've studied this thing. It's so sick. The physics is nuts. This landscape is mind-blowing to me. The lighting, the performance, first of all, but just how massive it looks, how the GLSL, like the shaders, the physics, like, oh my god, the camera shake. There's so much happening in there that you don't even realize. There's a really dope YouTuber. You're not YouTuber. He's a creative developer, Yuri, and he does like live streams of him recreating things, and I actually wonder if he's tried to recreate this experience because it's so sick. It's actually, some parts of it is surprisingly simple, but the direction is just so good. Like this ring, all this like chromatic aberration type stuff. I guess it's like a lens flare almost. Is so well done. I think that's just a shader that is attached to your scroll, and then the shader is just there. This is just looping, so that's just a loop, and then this middle part is also just a shader, and I think that's the same as in the other page. And then you just have a little 3D asset over there. He doesn't even need a shadow because we're not moving, so he's probably all just baked. And then the lighting, I mean, they're pretty nuts, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did the lighting using shaders too. Or they just had like a point light or something that lit up the whole thing. But yeah, and then there's some depth and stuff. Anyways, getting way sidetracked. This website is just too fun. So how do they present their work? Their website is their work, basically. So it's like, all right, so another trend here from the agencies, yet another reel. There must be something about these reels that is just kind of what people actually care about. That's a great layout for, starting the portfolio experience. And then it's just visuals, just large visuals. It gets the point across. It's kind of nice. Oh, that was sick. It's like you gotta scroll a bunch to get to the next one. I think I'll take some aspects of this for the header for when you get into a portfolio page. So overall, so they're just doing like a 2-call grid, but where it's kind of awesome is with each asset. So I think I need a solution for interaction. I think it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna need a lot of interaction design. I'm always attracted to stuff like this where it's just super clean, especially with the direction that we're kind of playing around with. I do love this. Everyone's got the shaders. What'd be really cool actually is in the same way that this is kind of starting to tell a story, branded experiences, blah, 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 and then here's branded experiences. And then lovable products, blah, 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 lovable products. Digital innovation. That's a really good way to tell your story, especially if you're a full service agency, kind of like ours, where we have so many services. Yeah, because this is essentially our list of services that we have, minus XR and Web3. I like that. I might think about that. So here, we'll call this our art direction, and then we'll call this, I don't know, layout and information architecture. So I do love the idea of like statements, sections with like some sort of a narrative type of statement that relates to the impact of service being presented is how I'm gonna do that. I just found out there's a, well, I just found out everyone's leaving Arc, so I should probably leave as well, but I just can't stop using it. Also, I'm plugged in, so I don't care about battery life, but it does suck up a lot of your CPU. Everyone's moving to Zen browser. I need Chrome. I'm just developing Chrome, so I don't know why. I just never got into Firefox. And Zen browser is based on that. So I thought about doing the headers for our portfolios to be more like this, where it's like lots of white space, big name, but the names of the companies we work with a lot of B2B, and it's like not consumer product goods or anything. So I think it's more important to show the services, some nice visual, and then get right into the work, how this is. So I really do love that one. I think that one was really cool. I'm just trying to look for like grid solutions or like other ways to do grids. The only issue I had with the previous one is the hierarchy. I guess it wants a hierarchy, right? Like you can't just have 3 blocks right next to each other. And you also need that white space, so it's like a way to introduce the white space. So maybe like there's something there. Oh, Toy Fight. I think this is the one that you already did something with. That's an interesting type choice to go serif with a brand like this. So here they're doing kind of like a similar grid that we already sort of have. Large square next to a little square. So maybe there's something there as well. Super small, way too small. Oh, I'm just in the collections right now. Is that what it is? Am I still in the... No, I'm still in the agency portfolio. Alright, so I think like with this idea, go to... Why is my Suits and Sandals website not starred? It is starred. It is... Oh, it's right there. I'm an idiot. Okay. Mm, 1 year ago. Great. So let's see if I have any variables that's worth... No. It's like before we started using variables. This is also a disaster of a Figma file. I was at a meetup not too long ago, or yeah, it's kind of long a while back, and I was speaking with someone who wrote a kind of a post that started blowing up on why grids are stupid and you shouldn't design with grids. And the longer I spoke to him, the more I was like, yes, you're right. I gotta find that article. Um, yeah, so let's just play around with spacing. I think like I've always been partial to squares. Maybe like a sort of a square. If we do like 550 by 450 type of aspect ratio. So right now what we have is like, you know, big 16 by 9 almost. And I can see us doing something like we have right now. Oh, I just kind of had an idea also. Where I had an idea of, you know, what if as you scrolled, God, Windows is just not as smooth as my Mac. Not to be like a Mac fanboy. So let's say these are like a different piece of work. So as you scroll down, it would kind of be cool to essentially do this. Oh, I'll just do it manually. For this to go to small and this to go large. Be too crazy if that was the hover. It would have to be like a scroll or something. That might not work, but either way. So there's this kind of like staggered approach with some sort of size hierarchy happening that could be interesting. We could also just be boring and, you know, do something like this. Well, because I can also see us like just like a repeating type of like, yeah, just like a kind of a, yeah, just a masonry vibe, which is kind of whack. I don't like that. I remember it. I was like, what did that grid look like again? So the other thing that they had was, well, let me bring it back just so I have a reference. No, it's not that. I think, yeah, it's just that. So we could also do what that other agency was doing, which is sort of like this. You know? Which is fine. I mean, it's interesting. The scroll is odd because as you come down, I mean, you have type up here, so that's sort of different. I'd probably want to maintain the aspect ratio. It's small though. You could also like flip it. If they're far enough, it won't feel... I don't know if you need that much like dynamic. Do they flip it? No, I think they stay. This mouse is ridiculous. Yeah, they stay just... Oh no, they do flip it. Why? I wonder why. Does it just get boring after a while? Or they're just so used to like image and content flipping that they kind of just do that. It could be the case. So I'm holding on to this idea of talking about your services. So like I guess we'll have to write a paragraph, and every sentence talks about one of our key services or service areas. Show some work. Next service area, show some work. And it's like one cohesive, statement, basically. Let's see if they're doing that. I don't even think they're doing that. Brand experiences, website, product, games. 14 islands design digital brands and interfaces that are both functional and fun to use. Lovable products. Good partnerships. These are more like mission statements almost, not necessarily one continuous like thought. Which I guess is like more logical. You don't have to be super poetic with it. What's another version of this? So another version of this could be something like just 2 instead of 1, because I feel like these guys are getting too small, especially if I want to do shaders on top of it. We could do stuff like this and just flip it every now and then, I think. I like that. I think that's going to be a better, like, it's the right amount of, like, dynamic and also not so dynamic. Because if we just take, this shitty ass website, it's not bad. If we just take some of these, I don't even know what our fonts are these days. Like, why is my letter spacing just looking so crazy? Do they do services? This is a thought piece. Very interesting. That's actually really sick. And these are case studies. This is actually the work, and then there's like a thought. Oh my god, I'm 1000% stealing that. That is such a good idea. Wait a minute. I've made this design a very long time ago. Oh my god. Wait. Oh my god. I have to send this to... No. Dude, it looks just... I mean, they did it way better, for sure. 100%. But oh my god, that is... Okay, side note. Let's see how long ago I made this design. 4 years, 4 years, 5 years. It must be like 6 years. Yeah, 6 years ago. Dude, that's crazy. Wait, what? I want to find out who that art director is and whether or not they've seen this design and whether or not it was an inspiration or just like a thing. Where is it? Oh my god, dude. It might be like so old that it was when I was using Sketch. It seriously might have been when I was using Sketch. Where is it? It's gonna drive me crazy. I'm getting so distracted. What? So much worse. Look how much better this is. I mean, the wave, the dots, that's kind of like a, you know, everyone does that. It just reminds me so much of it. Wait, there was like one shot that just looks so much like it. I think it's the color. Dude, I'm getting flashbacks of this, like working on this project. But we developed like so many of these, and this was like our first like 3D, like putting projects or 3D into projects. This is, yeah, I think I brought this over from Sketch. This was back when we were doing Sketch. I gotta send this to my partners. Dude, so crazy. Anyways, all right. No services, just the fact that it's a case study, I guess, is what they're doing. So that, okay, this sort of changes things, but sort of doesn't. So this could be a case study, right? So let me just pull up like a random blog title we have. The problem is like their case studies are pretty, like they're not showing where's the website? They're not showing the title of the blog post, of the article. Actually, their homepage is just their work page, it seems like. And their work page is just straight up just work. Their services, I guess this kind of makes sense. So like instead of having individual pages for each services, which I guess they do. Yeah, they do. I suppose this is a way to like weave in case studies next to, you know, how you think, basically, with these journals. No, they just have really short titles. I mean, this title I just pulled up is like the longest freaking title ever. Let's shorten it, but I haven't been paying attention to the chat, but which section? This section? I mean, I was definitely looking at a million things. Let me know which section you're talking about. For the most part, everything we've looked at so far, the only thing that's a video is anything that you actually hover over and then you click play. This is a case study right here. You know, really tell me how you made it, how you thought through things. All these websites we're looking at, unless it's like a reel, are all just code and assets. These little blurs, that's code. That's a shader. Lots of shaders. All right. So I'm gonna have GPT just shorten that title for me. So I guess like how it would translate to something over here is like, I don't have any it's kind of whack. It's still so damn long. Yeah, no. If these people made it, it's more than likely 3JS. So code. How we did it back in like 2014, 2015, we rendered it in Cinema 4D, or like we created it in Cinema 4D and then exported out videos. But now you can actually do this stuff with 3JS. It's just particles. It's actually pretty simple. It's a really impressive, and a lot of it is the creative, but you can do this in code. And there are examples of code. I think here, yeah, no, I think this must be GLSL or just 3JS right here. Yeah, this is definitely 3JS because there's interactions. CodeDrops probably has it. You know, if you go to CodeDrops, you'll probably stumble upon it somewhere. I don't know, just search particles. There's like a billion articles. There's some dots. This one's audio reactive. Oh, this is Yuri's stream. This is sick. So if you really want to learn about particles and how to make cool looking dots, this is amazing. So he recreated DNA Capital's website, or not the whole website, but just one of the key pieces. And this is actually how I learned how to do like particle, like code particles basically. Yeah, this is all code. And surprisingly, a lot of math, obviously, but it is so awesome. And the really cool thing about this project is, so how this is made is there's a really simple 3D object which just really holds the shape. So it doesn't have particles, doesn't have anything, it's just a shape, a 3D shape. And then you map your points, your little dots, onto that as a material, basically. So instead of a material is like instead of a plastic, it's now just your dots. And then the best thing about it is getting the luminescence, like how bright this stuff is, the all the chromatic aberration, like how you see the colors of these dots go red and blue almost like lens flares. That's a really big trick. Most of 3JS like projects, what makes them very impressive and what gets them to like awards level is a mixture of post-processing, or like how you do your post-processing effects, which is like blurring the sides, having some sort of distortion, having some sort of like the chromatic aberration type stuff, is really like kind of what makes projects look awesome. And you can see it right here. It's very strong up here, not so much, not super strong over here. Like, yeah, here the colors are really just splitting in the channels, versus down here. So as you scroll, it's this really epic effect. And yeah, a lot of it is art direction though. Of course, there's like really cool technical things, but you can learn all the technical stuff and never get to something like this just because it's creative. It's like just design, I think. this whole stream, he literally just makes it. There's like, so he streams out of Ukraine. There's one stream where he's like, I don't know how long I'm gonna go in this stream because there's like our powers are getting cut off and there's bombs happening. It's pretty intense, and he's just out here just doing 3JS. It's pretty nuts. All right. The problem with, so if we were to like literally copy what they had, you would have your tag here of what it is. What they said journal, but like we could just say, I don't know, article. And then let's really copy it. It's a weird, I don't know if it's just both A's, but let's do like Vault Health, let's say. It's just driving me crazy. You get some weird relationships by doing stuff like this, though. What do I want this one to be? This is, I'm gonna like spell it out, case study. I like stop being able to use Figma without auto layout these days. It's kind of crazy how that's... Even with concept, I used to just never use auto layout unless I'm, you know, finalizing a design. Now it's like I feel slower without the auto layout. It's a weird vibe. Let's grab some images. Let's put the video in. Why not? Let's grab some videos. I guess I can also grab like the... I'm getting a little carried away here. I should just really focus on blocking, but whatever. Putting in my vid. Windows. I gotta get my streaming set up in my Mac because this Windows is like kind of crazy. Let's just leave this. Let's just stick to what we're definitely getting a little out of hand here. What is it? 1024. Yeah, we're getting a little too crazy. This concept thing is getting very hi-fi. It might be weird that one of them is like a video and the other one is not. But maybe it won't if this has like a fun wobbly effect, you know, some fun shader on top of it. These sharp edges are cutting me. I don't know, because the type hierarchy is weird. The bigger one has a smaller type. The smaller one has a bigger. That's a thing. So I'm gonna have to like go down here, but because our blog titles are so long, I don't know if that's really sustainable. I need a better way. I don't know if the size alone is like the thing that differentiates. Because I didn't even honestly, well, like when I was browsing, I didn't even know that that there was a difference, that the bigger one was a case study, or not a case study, was an article. The smaller ones were case studies. They just all, it looked like they made this product. They probably did, but and then these were case studies. So yeah. I think you would need like a little bit, like, yeah, you would probably want to do what they're doing with contrasting this part. Even more, probably. So let's just say we have something like this. And if we do have something like this, then we have like big text over there. Blurb for branding. Just need some placeholder text. That is not a blurb. Give me a blurb for branding. There we go. Oh god, this is a terrible blurb. Let me just grab content from my own website. God, it's so old. Everything is so old. Maybe, yeah, that's a good length. Just wasn't sure like how. Just making up random values here. That's a terrible type treatment. That's okay. It's a weird. I think it wants to be like kind of maybe far from it. Well, I guess they need like some sort of relationship. We businesses. We. So now we're in like a really corporate vibe here. Let's just go somewhere there. Okay. So if we have stuff like this, we got some lines, we stole the other design, great. How do we go from this to what I started the stream with, to marathon? Where the hell? Oh. And teenage engineering and all the trendy stuff. So I kind of started off by saying I'm not going to push my brand to that. It's too big of a jump. It's going to take way too long. Also, it doesn't make sense. But there is kind of like this middle ground that I want to find. And the things that I'm going to take from this is really just the lighting, the texture, obviously like the use of color and how saturated the color is. Our palette right now is pretty muted. If I don't even have it in here, but probably see it here. Yeah, the palette's like kind of muted, and so we probably would not want to stay this muted. Look at that. So if we do have some colors that's like, you know, better or closer to this new like style, but it's still powdery. It still looks like, if we pull up HSL here, saturation is at 100%. I guess what it would just go darker actually. more confident, more primary. It would be that, you know, versus kind of that, which I guess that powderiness is because it's so light. Even though it has all that saturation, it still has that. The lightness of it is what's kind of making it a lot more powdery. The other thing that we can bring in for sure are these arrays, like the diagonals. Lots of diagonals with this. I think those are pretty dope. And then of course like the pop of color. So if we brought this back, let's just keep everything black and white right now. You know, I could actually see it like getting flipped around and having this be the pop of color. So if we did something like this, what's our pop of color? We'll go orange, just because the reference is orange. No, let's go... That's kind of teenage engineering-y. The green is so interesting. Let's go red. Maybe the green. Let's go warmer. Like that. Then you can just kind of do that. Tighten it up a little bit. A lot of it. Why is this all the way over there, bro? This is when it's not very productive to be messing around with these values. Oh, oh no. The hell? No, it's gotta fill. Light? What? Alright, well, that's freaking weird. What? Okay, I don't care. Anyways. So yeah, we could have our pops of colors. We could put it on the things that usually doesn't, the things that are usually faded out. That could be an interesting idea. Although now it kind of makes it feel like that's a button. But the whole thing is going to be clickable. And we'll have a fancy shader hover effect there. Next up is to just get rid of these blacks probably. And then put it in somewhere here. Here. So to get this effect of... Yes. It's just the greatest trailer of all time. To get this effect of the materials that we're seeing here, how it's like kind of matte almost, again on the gun. Not so much this area, because this is more like shiny plastic, borderline porcelain. But yeah, this kind of texture, I do think it's coming from the light, one, and it's smooth, so it's not like we have to apply noise or actual textures. I think we like mix the texture through color, or the color sort of becomes a texture. I don't know. And you know, going like from white to just like a complete. Oh, we're going retro. Just dirty, just a little bit dirtier. Let's use HSL. I've really been loving doing colors this way because it's a little bit more control. and I tend to just go whoop. So now we could just boost the saturation a little bit. A lot of it. It doesn't seem like much has changed, but it's there. Oh, it's there. It's a big step from white. Maybe we don't want to go that big of a step because it starts to look a little retro. And maybe the hue is like higher. Not green, but I don't know. That's too warm. Yeah, I guess back to where we were. So if we left there, really the other ways that, this right here is kind of messing some things up. Also, these are just too, it's looking too gray. Still has to be confident, you know? I wonder if highlighting and stuff could be an interesting situation. Maybe I could explore that later. Another thing I can see myself doing here is putting a little eyebrow up here of the service. Why does... Oh man, my mouse is just so out of, like, all over the place. This is also not the right font, so I probably shouldn't, like, spend too much time on typography here. Yeah, it's kind of hilarious. Like, if we just do all of our, you know, secondary information just in a highlight. It's weird. It's a weird move. But there's something about it that I think sort of is working, but definitely tomorrow I'll feel like it's not working. This definitely needs like an 8. That's a lot of blip, 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 blip. That's not looking good. Just trying to push it too much. Trying to find ways to, you know, get it there. Let's get into actually some of these shapes as well. I am running out of time here. Maybe there's a moment for a faded text, just to see what potentially that could look like. Also, for some reason, I really just want to put this for a second. I want to see what it would feel like, you know, going into changing to dark mode almost. Like, as we scroll, everything kind of, you know, flips. Or half the page is dark mode. That's a wild idea. Sometimes you gotta just do a bad idea to bring yourself... yeah, it's a terrible idea. It does create like a really interesting depth to an otherwise extremely flat design. I could see it working, especially if this was interactive. you know, a part of our brand was doing like blocking stuff like this. It would just be like so much. It'd be so much work trying to just get it to work right off the bat, but it starts getting into a totally different space if you do stuff like that. I think we stick to just, you know, what we have here. Yeah, and then, you know, I think the other thing we can actually do, just because I want to see what the light grays would look like. The old typing out type of vibe. I think that could work. Well, I guess it would. This would be the darker one, and then what's this? B to B to B. That's what we do. And then yeah, I guess this would be gray. So this can, you know, kind of get us into that headspace. You know. So we didn't really get to implementing too much of the graphic realism. Which is expected, but I think there's something to some of these ideas worth pursuing. I can definitely see like stripe, like those diagonals. It definitely feels more polished than whatever the hell we have. It's close to where we're at. Because right now it's just these big blocks and it's fine, but it's also not fine. I think if we have, you know, this, and especially if there's a bunch of them, that could be good. All right. It's noon. I gotta run. Thanks for watching.